So, are you going to go quietly?
Or is this gonna get loud?
Titans, go!
I started reading comic books in the 80s. I was an avid comic book reader.
I was reading Teen Titans when I was like in junior high school and high school.
Teen Titans was one of the most popular books at the time.
They were like the new superheroes, and they were teenagers, and it was different than Superman and Batman.
I was hooked into the Teen Titans. That was pretty much all I read throughout the Marv Wolfman, George Perez time on that book.
From the time I was 5 years old, when I saw the very first episode of Superman on television, I was a comic book fan. It's been a lifelong passion ever since. Well, Teen Titans was a comic book back in the 1960s, but back then it was Robin.
It was Wonder Girl and Kid Flash. It was just like the Junior Justice League. It was all the teen characters.
What they were the teenage sidekicks of the main heroes.
Marv Wolfman and George Perez, like, updated it and introduced all the new characters.
We took the popular ones, Wonder Girl, Robin, and Kid Flash, and brought in another character, Changeling, who's now called Beast Boy.
Whose turn to do dishes?
Started as Beast Boy, became Changeling, he's Beast Boy again, and created 3 new characters. Raven allowed us a more supernatural element to be put into the book on a regular basis. Cyborg, both a technological character and an urban character. By him being an African American, it allowed us to have different types of stories to be able to tell there. And Starfire, who came from another planet, so it gave us an opportunity to do intergalactic adventures.
There were no adults in the comic, no mentors. Previous versions of the Titan had an adult supervisor for the characters. I just wanted to get rid of those and treat them with the respect that the characters deserved. We believed in making them real characters so they were grounded in reality, but still had these incredible adventures where they were doing major things.
And some of the common problems that any teenager would face, magnified by, of course, the cosmic level that we can achieve in comic books.
Instead of trying to save a friend from doing something bad, they're saving an entire universe. We did stories where they dealt with runaways. We did several books for the White House on drugs. We did a lot of comics based on real kids' problems.
Some of the issues obviously dealt with simple things like dating. Despite everything, some of these kids still have to go to school. Trusting each other. So they had a clubhouse, as it were, and a proximity to each other that meant a certain amount of trust and respect for each other as human beings, despite some enormous differences and some reasons for you to have distrust.
That's the period where it's all angst, where it's all, what am I going to do? Do they like me? Do they not like me?
So, we really are friends?
Bringing that into the characters is what made them work for a long, long time and made the new Teen Titans DC Comics #1 comic for years.
Somehow we struck a nerve. The relationship between the characters was something that the fans liked.
The big differences between what I was trying to do and what a lot of people were doing previously was really center on the characters, really make the villains important to the characters, as I say, not as just criminals robbing from banks or jewelry stores.
So for me and for Marv, we were never drawing costumed characters. We were drawing characters in costumes.
The difference, again, between the teams, between the comic book and the cartoon is, in the comic book, it was really a soap opera between everybody that was going on. And in the cartoon, they really are 5 friends who really care for each other. That really makes the action better.
Didn't you hear him? Your sister needs help.
Marv was very acceptable of the idea. He thought it was different from his Teen Titans, but he understood what we were doing with the new ones.
We've worked with Marv on the show a couple of times, and it's always great because he writes from character more than anybody that I've worked with. So he created these characters that were each unique, each individual, and very, very relatable, yet not the sort of people that you would meet in your everyday life.
We really wanted to make the characters iconic, and each one of the characters feels like someone that you know from high school, or you knew, or the kind of there's a funny guy, there's a hero guy, there's a jock guy, there's a creepy chick, and there's a, hot chick.
Azrath Metrion Zinthos!
Raven's actually my favorite character. She is the exact opposite of Starfire. I was playing very much with emotional opposites so that they'd be able to work together interestingly.
Might you wish to hang out with me?
She's a telepath, an empath, who has an ability to manifest energy through a soul self.
Raven is complicated.
This was a character truly in control of his soul, because that soul self, that black shape, had to be controlled at all times.
Think again.
You don't want to let this Trigon demon that we saw in the cartoon show and was a regular character for several storylines in the comic book as well, you can't let that character out. A teenager, and these are all representations of different emotions of teenagers, is conflicting emotions all the time.
We need to control our emotions.
She is constantly having to do meditation to control herself.
Need to be alone.
That was just plain freaky, correct?
The one time she did explode and Trigon started to come out, the others had to help her. And that's a nice way of taking what we did in the comic book and translating it into your friends being able to help you contain the problems inside you.
Get out of my mind now! Leave you alone with that?
Not gonna happen.
Raven is the cynical one. She's the one who's got a dry sense of humor.
Yo, Raven, try one. They're loaded with soybeany goodness. I respect that you don't eat meat. Please respect that I don't eat fake meat.
I suggest a large pizza with pickles, bananas, and mint frosting.
Starfire was the princess of another planet, and she falls to Earth in the first issue of the comic book, doesn't speak anything that we can recognize, and the Teen Titans rescue her. She is a complete innocent in many ways, but she's a great warrior.
No more chasing now, please!
If Raven was created to be the character who has to withhold emotion, Starfire is the character who explodes with emotion all the time. In innocent emotion and loving emotion, and also as the warrior, because she'll immediately go into battle in the cartoons and in the comic books. But at the same time, she's the one who cares most about keeping everyone together.
May we now go see if Raven is better?
If you have a best friend, you know that person's not going to think exactly the same way you do. Sometimes you're going to be arguing with them, sometimes you completely disagree with them, but you still want to be friends, and that's what I was trying to do in creating the differences between Raven and Starfire.
Starfire was the foreign exchange student, the girl from another town, from another way of doing things. She was really the kid from another culture, and we were able to base a lot of humor. She's one of my favorite characters.
This tangy yellow beverage is truly delightful.
That's mustard.
Is there more?
This is Cyborg. I'm either in the gym, playing Game Station, or kicking bad guy butt. Leave a message.
Cyborg is closest to our concept because he's basically a young man who's half man, half robot, and has to deal with the fact that he feels like he's a bit of a freak.
Just a natural part of being unnatural.
He was a victim of an accident that his father caused that almost destroyed his body and had to be rebuilt. He was an athlete, and he hated the fact that by becoming this cyborg, he couldn't do athletics anymore because he'd instantly be better than anyone else. He's tougher than the others because he is more city than all the other characters.
I quit!
Cyborg comes from this very emotional place. If he's happy, he's so happy. If he's mad, he's so mad. And all of that's only going to last about 5 minutes till the next thing comes along.
Pleased to meet you, little lady.
If he likes you, he likes you. If he doesn't like you, he doesn't like you.
The Titans are a way for him to not feel like he was a freak. And they brought him into the family, and that's what let him realize that he was a person.
I got the Sonic if you got the boom.
Sweet! Go, Beast Boy!
Well, Beast Boy also, he's the other character who was in the comic book before me.
And he has the ability to change into different animals.
I love the idea that this character could turn into any animal he wanted. And if you just left him on that level alone, I think that was fun.
All his characters that he turns into are green, so it's not like he can be a green gorilla and expect to hide among other gorillas. He'll always be identifiable.
But I wanted him to be more fun. I wanted him to joke around. I wanted him to be the one character in the Titans who loved his powers. He was somebody who absolutely adored being a superhero and would have fun with it and would be the joker of the group.
This is gonna be so sweet.
More than anything, Beast Boy wants to know that he's cool, and he doesn't know that he is. So he's kind of all about getting that affirmation. He's always trying to make people laugh.
See? She thinks I'm funny. Statistically, I suppose someone has to.
When things got too terrible for them, when the villains were too strong, he could bring it down to a fun level.
Who else never wants to go surfing again?
And they've kept that character exactly that way in the show, which I love.
Bet your Cyborg can do the robot.
We've made Beast Boy a lot more interesting in some ways in the cartoon because his power in the comic book was just turning into animals.
One thing I felt very strongly about was that Beast Boy, when he's in animal form, shouldn't talk, which was a departure from the comics. In the comic books, he's able to talk no matter what form he's in. If he was going to be that silly when he was in human form, when he was a rhino, I wanted him to be as tough and as scary as a rhino.
In the cartoon, I think his relationship with the rest of the Teen Titans has made him a better character.
Do I have to do the face? You know you can't resist the face.
And you must be Robin.
Robin was Batman's partner, created as the very first teenage superhero. Or teenage partner. No superhero at the time ever had a partner before.
His mask makes you look very mysterious.
The original version of Robin and the Robin that existed up until the Teen Titans was a very young guy, very smart, but he was more of a joker. He was always giving quips and fast puns, and he'd be jumping all over the place fighting the villains while joking with them.
The current Robin is a character called Tim Drake.
One of the things that I wanted to do was make him the actual leader of the Titans.
Titans, go!
Because he was Batman's partner.
In the cartoon, we never mention Batman. Robin is essentially his own superhero who is really, truly a leader.
Titans, he's got Cyborg!
He's the only member of the Teen Titans without superpowers. So his power is his mind. His power is his ability to organize the other characters.
So many of the best leaders are the ones who have to think first because they don't have the extra superpowers that allow them to do the dangerous stuff haphazardly. The man who knows that there's a lot at stake is the one you trust to lead you safely.
I wanted to make him more like Bruce Lee. I wanted to make Robin really, really cool and really different.
For me, at least, Robin's superpower is that he's crazy. He's got guts. He'll jump off of a building to save somebody and then figure out how to not die on the way down.
You'll just have to find out the hard way.
And to me, that actually makes him the most interesting and the most heroic out of the group.
I had to convince people that I was going to do a Robin that no one had ever seen before.
Maybe he just needs to chill.
Robin, we meet at last.
Who are you? Who is Slade?
Wouldn't you like to know, Barf Brain?
Slade was an important character in the comic book who we made an even more important character in the cartoon.
There's no reason to be a superhero if you're just going to sit around on a rocking chair. You need good characters to fight, good characters to stop. What we did was create a whole new type of character from Deathstroke, the Terminator, who was our main character.
And Slade is his first name. In his alter ego, he's Slade Wilson. Like in the comic, basically, he was hired to kill the Titans.
He's the #1 bad guy. Each team needs one guy that you hate, and he'll be that guy. In a way, he sort of feels like he's Robin's father. He's the parental villain, and it makes the teenagers when you have grown-ups as bad guys.
And the message has been received.
When we did Batman, what I thought was good about Batman was we set it in like this alternate 40s world. And I thought for Teen Titans, what we should do is sort of set it in kind of an alternate 60s.
Teen Titans is in a fictional city on the West Coast. It's sort of a combination of San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego.
Oh, the comic definitely took place in New York. In fact, Titan's Tower was on an island somewhere in the East River. Marv and I were both New Yorkers. DC Comics was based in New York. And we knew the city much better than we ever knew California.
We wanted to be the West Coast just because we wanted to try to get out of the whole East Coast Gotham metropolis feel.
We wanted stuff that looked sort of more spontaneous, and we wanted Titans to have a different feel than kind of what we did before with Batman or Superman.
So we created this new thing. There's little hints of Tokyo in there also. That's because Glenn loves that.
An island in the Bay Area or Los Angeles seems to make much more sense than having it in the East River when you think about it.
The theme song was recorded by a girl band from Japan called Puffy Amiyumi. I'd seen one of their music videos on a public access channel when I lived in New York and became completely obsessed by them. I actually watched the whole music video to see what their names were at the end and see who they were. It all came up in Japanese and I had no idea. A few years later, I'm living in Los Angeles and I'm driving in LA and I hear an interview and I hear that song. And it's an interview on Puffy Amiyumi on NPR. And I pulled my car over and I started the Puffy Amiyumi harassment campaign. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something with them on Cartoon Network. Meanwhile, we were making the Teen Titans show and it had this Amerikaname, this Japanese influence. So I said, let's get Puffy to make the song for Teen Titans. Glenn and myself met with Andy Sturmer, who was their producer, and came up with some ideas of what we were going to do.
TV shows, cartoons don't have theme songs anymore, so that was a reason why we kind of went for that. I think I told them I wanted it like the old Batman show. I wanted it like the Spider-Man theme. And even like Brady Bunch and Partridge Family, I told them we should do something like that because no one's doing that anymore.
And Andy went off and wrote the song with Puffy that became the song that we have today. Glenn, like all the guys who work for Glenn and myself, we've all grown up with anime. We've all been influenced by it all our lives.
When they showed me the first script for the first of the Titans, I wasn't sure what was going on.
We wanted to make a superhero show like no other.
I didn't want it to just be an adaptation of an old comic.
I was happy it wasn't identical to what I did, as I didn't try to follow what the people before me did with the Teen Titans.
For me, the anime is an influence just from working with the overseas studios. I realized if you're going to send the cartoons to the Orient to have them animated, you should kind of utilize the best of their abilities.
And once I saw the artwork, they showed me two versions of that they were considering of the Titans. Both anime to some degree, but one a little bit wilder than the other.
The Japanese have something called Super Deformed or Super D. It's the equivalent of like a Tex Avery-like take where the eyeballs come out.
Animation's about big reactions. And the old type animation was always about things, you know, squash and stretch. Characters can change form, characters can change design.
With this show, we wanted something like that. We wanted to see how emotional the characters got.
I'm fighting inside Titan's tower, and the tower itself is dancing as if it's caught in the fight, you know, very, very Tex Avery, very, very cartoony.
I pushed them. I said, make it weirder, make it different. Don't be scared of doing something nuts. And Amerikaname was born. One line that we said a lot while we were developing Teen Titans is the squint test, we called it. So we wanted to make the stories very obvious. David Slack was great at that. He really ran with that idea.
It was sort of a litmus test to know when things would work for a very young audience. In photography, it's for black and white photography. You squint your eyes and things either become black or white. You lose color. It's a way of knowing what a color image that your eye sees is going to look like in black and white. For us, basically, it had to do with how much explaining there was. If you open an episode with a bad guy on top of a toppled armored car with money spilling out and the Titans are around him, that squints because he's doing something bad. For me as a writer, what it meant was things that kids would see and go, that's wrong, you can't do that.
Things that kids get, jealousy.
Fascinating.
Sibling rivalry, getting beat up on the schoolyard. Things that we thought kids could really relate to and turn those into superheroic stories.
Take Starfire, for example. We never went into her backstory. We never said, well, she's from Tamaran and she's come to Earth. All we did is have her, in the scene that really introduced her character, have her eating cotton candy and talking about how strange things were on Earth. So we didn't have to explain that, we just showed it.
It vanished.
Yeah, it'll do that.
So that was the squint test in as much of a nutshell as I can put it in. The comics influenced the show tremendously. I was brought in because I wasn't a comic book guy. I'd read my share of comic books, but I was more of a TV kid. I'm a big science fiction book fan and all of that, but I hadn't really been deep into the comics the way that Glenn and Sam had. So my role was to be the guy who said, hey, guys, nobody knows what you're talking about. What was important about that series was that they were doing a lot of things that nobody had done with superheroes before.
One of the things that we tried to do with the Titans, and I was adamant about doing with the Titans, was make all the villains resonate with the individual characters. These weren't villains who were just stealing things from a bank, which most comic book villains were at the time. They were characters who had to deal directly with our heroes. So there was a personal connection between them.
We carried that over in the show. One of the things that we were really looking to do was to find a way to make the show about something more than just beating the bad guy, to make it about feelings, to make it about emotions.
Why are you wrecking everything?
Because it is amusing.
Did they look amused?
And I think the strength of the show comes a lot from the fact that it's about emotion.
Writing for the types of stories that Marv and I wanted to read as comic readers made it a little more universal, and it seemed to be a successful formula.
It's like, well, if we do Teen Titans, what do we want to see different about the Teen Titans, or what do we want to see? Since we're fans, we realize that the fans are going to like it the same way.
The success of the Teen Titans has been a lot of things. I think it was a new kind of superhero show that hadn't been out in a while. It was extremes. Mirkaname was something they had never seen before. The juxtaposition between characters that you really like and really butt-kicking action scenes made the show very interesting, and the stories are things that you can really relate to, and I think that's helped all to the success of the show.